Super Bowl 57 in the books. What a game, what a game, what a game. You know, everybody's going to talk about that holding call. Everybody's going to talk about that James Bradbury holding call late in the game, where a lot of people said James Bradbury held against Juju Smith-Schuster in that moment, that particular time. And it's very similar to what we saw last year, that PI on Logan Wilson with the Bengals against the Rams, which ultimately set up a Rams touchdown late in that game. So it is what it is. And if you're the Eagles, this is a moment you're going to be frustrated, disappointed, angry, upset, kicking yourself because you had an opportunity to win Super Bowl 57. It's that simple. I mean, Jalen Hurts did his job. The key in this game, the biggest key in this game is the Eagles could not sack Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes had a legendary performance. It's the stuff that legends are made of. You could talk about Michael Jordan's flu game. You could talk about Willis Reed and limping out on the court. You could talk about all those things. This is what legends do. They gut it out. They battle through. They fight through injury, and they find ways. Patrick Mahomes found a way. You thought near the end of the first half when he went down the ankle, you thought for a second there, man, this could be it for him. He's not going to, Eagles are going to catch another break with an injured quarterback, and he came back, he gutted through, he fought through, he battled through. And what a legendary performance by Patrick Mahomes. What a performance. What a game. Hey, this was fun. This was a great Super Bowl. A lot of big plays by a lot of players who did some amazing things throughout the course of this game. But at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs are champions, Super Bowl 57 champions. Look, it was a hold. At the end of the day, that play with Bradbury, James Bradbury, was a hold. By the letter of the law, it was a hold. But in that moment, in that situation, at that time, you swallow that whistle. You swallow the whistle, right? And that's it. You swallow that whistle. But they didn't swallow it. And the reality is, credit to the Kansas City Chiefs. Credit to Patrick Mahomes. Credit to Andy Reid. In that second half, you dominate. You score touchdowns. You do what you did everything you had to do in that moment and that time and that situation. You did your job in terms of you, Andy Reid, with a legendary coaching performance. Andy Reid is an all-time great as a head coach, and he continues to cement his legacy with his second Super Bowl title. Now he's got multiple titles. Now he's got more than one. So this guy is a legend, and he coached his butt off. Jonathan Gannon for the Eagles, that defense, that vaunted defense, 70 sacks in the regular season, 8 sacks in the playoffs, 78 sacks in total, and you got nothing tonight on Patrick Mahomes. You couldn't touch him. Hassan Reddick didn't get near the quarterback. Josh Sweat, all those guys, Javon Hargraves, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. You didn't get to the quarterback. And because your inability to get to the quarterback, you lose Super Bowl 57. Look, Jalen Hurts did his job. Like, you can talk about the fumble, which was huge, that led to a touchdown, but Jalen Hurts as a whole did his job. You can't ask for more. 27 for 38, 304 yards, 15 carries, 70 yards, 4 touchdowns in total. So everything you wanted of Jalen Hurts, everything you wanted of your quarterback, he did it. He did the job. But at the end of the day, when your defense can't get off the field, when your defense can't stop the Chiefs, you lose. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And it's frustrating in a lot of ways for a lot of people, and a lot of, because the Eagles were a loaded team. The Eagles were a complete team. And it was going to take a big-time performance from Patrick Mahomes to be the equalizer. And Patrick Mahomes was the equalizer tonight. And by the way, the Chiefs were able to run the ball effectively as well. Like Patrick Mahomes, he did his job and then some. And the Chiefs, like Patrick Mahomes, gutting it out with those runs, right? He's running the ball. bad ankle, busted ankle. He's running the ball. He's doing everything he had to do in this game for his team to win. So credit to Patrick Mahomes. He gets a lot of credit today. We can't take anything from Patrick Mahomes. This is what superstars do in these moments. Superstars do amazing things in amazing times. And Patrick Mahomes had an amazing performance at the right time. And it's that simple. He was great. And this is greatness. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. And great quarterbacks do great things. And Patrick Mahomes did great things. You find ways, and he found a way. He found a lot of ways. He kept finding ways. And the reality is, that's why he is who he is. That's why he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game. It's that simple. That's why he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of this game. Great quarterbacks do what Patrick Mahomes did tonight. Great quarterbacks find ways to get the job done. Busted ankle, you still find a way to beat the Bengals. You run the ball with a gutsy scramble, right? You get knocked out of bounds penalty. You set up a field goal to finish the game and win the game. Great quarterback. That's what great quarterbacks do. And even on that final drive, he's running. You see the pain in his face. You see the agony. You see all that. And this dude is finding ways. He's finding ways. And Andy Reid out-coached Jonathan Gannon in that second half. Andy Reid was big time. Big time tonight. You can criticize Andy Reid for a lot of things. You can criticize Andy Reid for many things. It's easy to criticize Andy Reid for his time management over the years. It's easy to criticize Andy Reid for some of his failures in NFC championship games. It's easy to do that. But at the end of the day, this dude won in Philly, didn't win a Super Bowl, but did everything but win a Super Bowl in Philly. And this dude comes to Kansas City. He wins 2 Super Bowls in Kansas City. And he finds Patrick Mahomes. You know, if one of the reasons Patrick Mahomes is in Kansas City, draft him. And they did everything they needed to do. And look, Patrick Mahomes was special. And I'm going to be honest here. I'm an Eagles fan. So this one hurts. This hurts. This Jalen hurts. But it is what it is. And the credit goes to the Chiefs. Credit goes to the Chiefs. You're down 24-14 at the break. And one of the reasons is the Eagles did a great job of keeping you off the field, right? They kept them off the field. The Eagles had, some amazing long drives, right? 11-play drive to start it out to score, make it 7-0. 12-play drive to make it 21-14. There's some long drive, 17-play drive, which ended in the field goal, and you needed a touchdown in that spot. The Eagles needed a touchdown in that particular spot, and they didn't get it. They couldn't get it. They ended up kicking the field goal. But you needed to be ahead of this team. You need to front run, and they did it for most of the game, clearly. But in the end, when they needed it, when they needed to stop Patrick Mahomes, they couldn't do it. They could not stop Patrick Mahomes, right? They could not stop Patrick Mahomes. And because of that, they lose Super Bowl 57, right? So a lot of people are going to talk about the James Bradbury hold that some people say wasn't a hold, some people say was a hold, right? And that's the play, right? Bradbury trailing there, Juju Smith-Schuster, by the letter of the law, probably was a hold, okay? But in that moment, in that spot, at that time, I'm like, okay, you swallowed a whistle. That you swallowed a whistle at that point. But it was a hold. They called it a hold, and that was it. And do you remember last year, Super Bowl 56, Rams-Bengals, Logan Wilson, questionable PI call down near the goal line there, while the Bengals were up 20-16. At that point, a PI call was called, and the Rams ultimately score there and win the game. Look, you never want the officials to decide the outcome of a football game. At that point, you don't want the officials to be involved. You don't, but they were. They were, and and there weren't a lot of penalties in this game in general, but they were there at that point, at that moment, at that time. It was questionable. It was a questionable call, but at the end of the day, probably to I guess by the letter of the law was the right call, but it was close. And I think in that spot when it's close, I think you just let it happen. You don't you keep the flag in your pocket because at that point, Chiefs are going to kick a field goal there, and Buckner missed from 42, I believe, earlier in the game. So I guess it wasn't a gimme field goal at that point. So who knows what could happen? Anything could have happened. But even then, if he makes the field goal, the Eagles have about, I think, about a minute and 50 something seconds left. They would have had a timeout, and they would have had, they would have had an opportunity. They would have had an opportunity at that point to get the ball back and maybe go down the field and either tie it with a field goal or take the lead with a touchdown. But how about this? How about Jalen Hurts? So, I mean, look, we could talk about this play, and this play was huge. Like, there's no discounting, dismissing how huge this play was. This was a huge play. This was big. This was the game to a degree. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, the Eagles lost the game because of this one play. No, I'm not going to say that because collectively, your defense couldn't get Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense off the field, right? Your defense couldn't touch Patrick Mahomes. Your defense couldn't stop Isaiah Pacheco. Your defense couldn't stop the Chiefs running game. Your defense couldn't do any of that. The Eagles' defense didn't do any of that. They didn't stop the run that well, and they allowed Patrick Mahomes to slice him and dice him. And look, Andy Reid out-coached, outworked, out whatever Jonathan Gannon, defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we can look at this play. Was it a holding call? Maybe by the letter of the law, probably. But in terms of time, situation, nah, it wasn't. But it is what it is, and that's that. That's that. And the Kansas City Chiefs win Super Bowl 57. It's that simple. It wasn't because exclusively of that call, but credit to the Chiefs, credit to everybody related to the Chiefs. Let's go back to Jalen Hurts. I mean, this guy, again, maligned for a lot of reasons. A lot of people don't have the arm strength, right? He's just we could throw Gardner Minshew in there, and Eagles had the same results, right? So on and so forth. But this guy, look, 304 yards, right? He did his job there. Touchdown pass, one touchdown passing. He again, 70 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns rushing. Like, the dude did his job in terms of that, right? He did everything that he was supposed to do and that he had to do in terms of all that. But and then when he walked off the field, the game was tied at 35. So when he walked off the field, the game was tied at 35. That's when he stepped off the field, he had his team in position, and the game tied at 35. So at the end of the day, him doing when he did his job, that fumble, like I said, the fumble was huge. I can't say it wasn't huge because it was returned for a touchdown. And that's one thing the Eagles didn't do throughout the whole postseason was turn it off. They had one turnover in this game. 2 big plays, right? That kind of, like, I thought if the Eagles played a clean game, they win this game. But 2 big plays. One, Kadarius Toney, that long punt return that put the Chiefs in position and put them up 8. And also that fumble by Jalen Hurts that was returned for a touchdown by the Kansas City Chiefs. Those were 2 big plays, and those were 2 plays that we're going to look back on and say, that was part of the reason the Kansas City Chiefs are world champions, right? Those 2 plays. And they were big. They were huge because I thought if the Eagles could have scored there, you could have put them up 21-7. And I felt like the Eagles had the front run in this game in order to win. They had the front run. They had to be front runners, and they were. They started out 7-0. Led 14-7 at one point, and obviously it led 24-14 at halftime, 21-27 in the third, Chiefs get that touchdown and make it 28-27. And again, at that point, they were trailing the rest of the way. And then they ultimately got it back and tied at 35. Like Jalen Hurts, that was huge. That big play, big throw, 46 yards, Devontae Smith, that ultimately set up his touchdown. And then he went for 2, and he gutted his way. He battled his way. He fought his way. He got himself into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. But here's what I'll say about the Eagles. We could say that they might get back here at some point in some time because they're a pretty loaded team. But here's what I will say. Here's what I'll say about the Eagles, right? 22 of 22 starters played. So the same guys who started the opening season were playing here today. And so you have that level of health. It's difficult when you have that level of health. And it's difficult to have that level of health. Like, it's difficult to have 11 guys healthy. That's difficult. That's hard. That's not something that's easy to do. That's not something that's easily done. Magic is usually not on your side when you're in position to have 11 for 11. You usually don't have 11 for 11 in terms of 22 for 22, I should say, in terms of all your starters and health from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And that's what the Eagles had, right? That's hard to do. And they couldn't get the job done. They could not push it through and win a Super Bowl. They couldn't do it. And that's going to be something that, look, they had home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Best record in the NFL, was one of the best teams in football from the beginning to the end. And ultimately, they could not seal the deal. It's that simple. The deal wasn't sealed by the Philadelphia Eagles. And now they go home. And the Chiefs go home as champions, and the Eagles go home as runner-ups. But no one remembers the runner-up. It's that simple. You're the first loser, right? So that's just the reality of that situation. But the Eagles had a great season. It was a great season for the Eagles. It wasn't a season that ended the way they wanted to end, but it was a great season for the Eagles. It was. I mean, it's that simple. It was a great season for those boys. But credit the Chiefs and credit Patrick Mahomes. Like, Patrick Mahomes is a legend. This was a legendary performance by a legendary player, by one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in football. 2 Super Bowls, this young age of 27, right? It's like the Chiefs could have a dynasty. You could have a dynasty there in Kansas City. With that level of quarterback play, you're talking dynasty, right? You can have a dynasty when you have that level of quarterback play. That quarterback play is amazing. And the Chiefs have that type of quarterback play. And, a lot of people were complaining about the Eagles, the 49ers. Well, we didn't have Brock Purdy and all that other stuff. But look, credit to the Eagles. They're there for a reason. They're a complete team for a reason. And you get home field advantage throughout. That's why you get it. But at the end of the day, this was about Patrick Mahomes and what he did today. This was about greatness. And it's when you see greatness, it's hard to you just marvel at it. You just step back. You just clap your hands. You just have to clap your hands and give it up for greatness, because that's what we saw today. We saw a great quarterback do great things. We saw a great quarterback do some amazing things. We saw a great quarterback carry his team and will his team to victory. That's what we saw here today. We saw 2 great quarterbacks. Well, we saw a great quarterback play. I'm not going to call Jalen Hurts a great quarterback at this moment, but we saw a great quarterback play. And Jalen Hurts, did his job tonight. Patrick Mahomes did his job and then some. And that's why he's Super Bowl MVP. And that's why the Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. It's that simple. So it's frustrating, I think, if you're an Eagles fan, for a lot of reasons. I'm an Eagles fan, so there is a level of frustration because it's so hard to get to this point. You got to still, it starts in July and August, and you go through the preseason. Hopefully, you don't get hurt. You go through the regular season. Hopefully, you stay healthy. You do enough to get home field advantage. You do that, which they did, and you go through and you held the Giants to 7 points. You hold the 49ers to 7 points. And then you're like, wow, this defense, this legendary defense, this defense that sacks the quarterback at a high level, this defense that does amazing things, that just finds ways, this defense, right? This defense was big time this year. Number one pass defense in this league, right? And Patrick Mahomes, it was easy. Like there was drives, those drives they looked easy. The resistance wasn't there. There wasn't a high level of resistance there. It just wasn't. It wasn't a high level of resistance. And you walk home, you come home. If you're an Eagles fan and a player, I think you got to say this is a missed opportunity. This is a missed opportunity for the Philadelphia Eagles. Your quarterback throws for 344 yards. Your quarterback accounts for 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 passing. Your quarterback rushes for another 70 yards. Your quarterback almost has 400 yards of total offense. Your quarterback plays in an amazing football game and plays like an elite quarterback on a big stage. Your quarterback did everything, and you waste a performance because the defense didn't do their job. They didn't do their job. And there was a lot of Jonathan Gannon critics out here, right? There are a lot of critics of Jonathan Gannon out here. And those critics will be popping up today, tomorrow, and the next week, and throughout this whole offseason. The critics will be popping up. The Jonathan Gannon critics will be popping out. They'll be coming out of the woodworks. They'll be coming. And they're going to be coming hard for Jonathan Gannon. And I guess rightfully so. Because Jonathan Gannon was outcoached by Andy Reid. Jonathan Gannon had no answers for Andy Reid. We saw situations where Kadarius Toney is wide open for a touchdown, right? That just outsmarted the Eagles at that point. Sky Moore, wide open, bust wide open, right? Some misdirection, bust wide open touchdown. So like these guys Andy Reid was scheming these guys open, right? And here's the thing, like you lose a Tyreek Hill who's an elite wide receiver, and you don't miss a beat. You don't miss a beat. The Kansas City Chiefs don't miss a beat with whether it's with or without Tyreek Hill. They don't miss a beat. They don't, and that's a credit to who they are. That's a credit to Andy Reid, and that's a credit to the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. He's a great quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. There's no doubt about it. And Jalen Hurts had a great performance. And we say, well, again, the Eagles might get back to this point at some time, down the road, down the year, down the line. I don't know, because it's so hard to get here. But Jalen Hurts in his offseason, he's going to get a contract. He's going to get his money, right? He's going to get paid, and rightfully so. He's earned that payday. And this was a performance this was a big-time Super Bowl performance where Jalen Hurts was just as good as Patrick Mahomes, maybe even better, right? But it's also a situation where, unfortunately, Jalen Hurts' defense let him down. But you win as a team and you lose as a team. And it's not like Jalen Hurts was spotless, because he did have that fumble, which was returned for a touchdown by the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So it wasn't like it was a spotless performance. It wasn't like there was no blemishes on this performance, because there was no doubt about it, because you had that fumble that led to a touchdown. So there are some blemishes on Hurts's resume for tonight. But at the end of the day, the guy played an amazing game, and you just hate to see a game end the way you just hate to see the game end this way, right? You don't want to see the game end with a holding penalty, a questionable holding penalty, which kind of decides the game. You want the players to decide the game. You want the players to decide who wins. You don't want to see that. And I feel like the last 2 Super Bowls, we've seen exactly that. Logan Wilson and in that situation, a PI with the Bengals, and then the situation here, James Bradbury with the hold. We've seen officials decide outcomes of games, right? We've seen it, and the officiating has been questionable throughout these playoffs. I'm not saying that's the reason the Eagles lost, but I'm saying is, right, even if the Eagles stop them there and they kick a field goal, the Eagles still would have to score. But based on the way Jalen Hurts was moving up and down the field, I like the Eagles' chances to be able to score in that situation. And you talk about Hurts outplayed your dude in the refs, right? Well, Mahomes is not my dude, but Mahomes, I mean, Hurts did outplay Mahomes, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Hurts' defense let him down. Hurts' defense let him down. Hurts outplayed Mahomes statistically and everything. Part of that was that the Eagles' time of possession, they were on the field a lot longer and had more, so that we didn't see a lot of the Chiefs' offense, especially in that first half. But the Chiefs, like when that second half came, they kept scoring and kept scoring and kept scoring. But Hurts did his job. Jalen Hurts would have won Super Bowl MVP if his defense would have just held on. Jalen Hurts did his job. I'm not saying at all. His job was Jalen Hurts did his job, and then some. You can't ask for a better performance from Jalen Hurts. I mean, the Chiefs, you look at it. Touchdown, their possessions in the second half, touchdown, field goal. So they kept scoring. The Eagles could not stop the Chiefs in the second half. And they didn't stop them throughout the course of this game. They didn't have any answers for their running game and Pacheco, and they didn't have an answer for Patrick Mahomes. They could not stop the Chiefs' offense. It was very reminiscent of Super Bowl 52. And you remember Super Bowl 52? Well, the Eagles' defense couldn't stop Tom Brady. I know it's a different defensive coordinator, a different coaching staff, but at the end of the day, they couldn't stop Tom Brady. And then Tom Brady and the Patriots kept going and coming. Nick Foles, had a great performance, an amazing performance. And finally, at some point in some time, the defense stepped up. Brandon Graham got the strip sack, and Derek Barnett recovered. But throughout the course of that game, right, the Eagles' defense had no answer for Tom Brady. And the same thing is going on today. The Eagles' defense had no answer for Patrick Mahomes. No answer. None whatsoever. No answer at all. And you can't win Super Bowl 57 if you can't get off the field. And before that final drive, texting the Eagles fan, I'm like, look, we both said it. They might not get the ball back. It was 5 minutes to go. We both said, look, the Eagles might not get the ball back. And lo and behold, Eagles had 2 timeouts, right? And lo and behold, they got the ball back, but they got it back for like 8 seconds left. And at that point, game was over, right? It was not enough time to do anything. So we were both saying, look, the way this defense is playing, like at some point, you need your defense to step up. And the Chiefs' defense wasn't great, but guess what? They had a fumble return for a touchdown. And that was big, right? So they made more plays than the Eagles defense. And we were coming into this game, we kept talking about this Eagles defense. We kept talking about their pass rush. We kept talking about all the things this defense has done. We kept talking about them holding the Giants to 7 points, them holding the 49ers to 7 points, them giving up only 14 points in these playoffs. We talked about that. But them not being able to stop the Chiefs today, them not being able to get off the field today, them not being able to stop the Chiefs running game, them not being able to stop Patrick Mahomes, them just not doing the job. Let Patrick Mahomes have clean pockets. Let Patrick Mahomes scramble all over the place. Let Patrick Mahomes do amazing things. That is your defense has to do better. Your defense has to do better, has to be better. And when your quarterback stepped off the field, the game was tied. The Eagles quarterback stepped off the field, Jalen Hurts, game was tied at 35. So the defense had one job. They couldn't do it, that one job. It's that simple. They could not do the one job. The one job was to stop the Chiefs. Couldn't do it. And so now the Eagles go into this offseason frustrated because this was a missed opportunity. And you can't, it's so hard to get to this point. And again, you had a complete team. Like the Eagles had a complete team. Eagles had a complete team. And when you have a complete team, you have to complete the job. And the Eagles did not complete the job. And that's simple. It's that simple. So hard to get to this point. It's so hard to get to this point. It's so hard to get to this point. And to get to this point as an Eagles team and to lose is difficult. And you can't, it's difficult. It's difficult. And that's a credit when you got a great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, right? Greatness finds ways. Messed up ankle, greatness finds ways. Eagles might have a better team, greatness finds ways. And that's Patrick Mahomes. And say what you will about Andy Reid, that's Andy Reid as well. That is greatness. That's a great coach. That's a great quarterback. And again, they come back. Their first game, they rallied against the 40. Their first Super Bowl, they rallied against the 49ers. And in this Super Bowl, they rallied against the Eagles. Patrick Mahomes now 2-1 in Super Bowls. And you got to wonder now, right? He's 27 years old. And I know Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowls. And Tom Brady got to the Super Bowl 10 times. Patrick Mahomes now has been to the Super Bowl 3 times, 27 years old. Now, Tom Brady played to age 45. Patrick Mahomes, maybe he plays a long time. The way the game is set up, quarterbacks don't get hit the way they used to. So it's not out of realm. And Patrick Mahomes is much more of an athlete than Tom Brady. So it's not out of realm of possibility that Patrick Mahomes, 3 Super Bowls at age 27, it's not out of realm of possibility that Patrick Mahomes could get to at least, you think, Patrick, would you be surprised Patrick Mahomes got to 7 more Super Bowls? Probably not. No, why not? This dude is that good. It's not like he didn't, I mean, Tyreek Hill is gone. His legend, great wide receiver is gone. Don't have him. And they still find ways. They still found a way, even without, Tyreek Hill, and this offense was still just as prolific as it's ever been, even without Tyreek Hill, right? Hardman wasn't there today, okay? They still found a way. Kadarius Toney making plays, right? Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. It's a Hall of Fame tight end doing Hall of Fame type things, right? He's big time. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that Patrick Mahomes eventually, when this thing is all said and done, walks away with 7 Super Bowls. Why not? 27 years old, finding ways to continue to get to this spot, busted ankle and all, getting to this spot and playing big time ball and finding a way to get his team to the Super Bowl victory. I mean, he found a way to get this team here, gutted against the Bengals, gutted his way through that game, and he gutted his way through this game. That's a credit to Patrick Mahomes and his greatness and the level of greatness that he has. He is a great football player who does great things. And he's an amazing player, right? That was like Jordan. That was Jordan out there. That was just dude was powering his way. It's just always amazing. It's great when you appreciate greatness. When you watch greatness, you appreciate greatness. You look at greatness and you say, this is greatness. This is greatness personified. This is what great looks like. Great looks like gutting it out. Great looks like busting ankle, gutting it out. That's what great looks like. When it's time to make a play, you made a play. When your team down 24-14 at halftime, you made a play. Your team down 27-21 in the fourth, you made a play. That's what greatness does. And Patrick Mahomes is that dude. That's what he does. And credit, I mean, they brought in Kadarius Toney from the Giants. And, he didn't really do much. He was hurt for a lot of the times. But today in the Super Bowl, that move paid off. Punt return to set up the touchdown to put up 35-27, and then a touchdown to give him the lead. So Kadarius Toney, that move was a move. Giants took Toney in the first round. He had a hard time staying on the field, just didn't work out. They moved him on, and Kansas City Chiefs picked him up. And today in Super Bowl 57, the move paid off. The move paid off, right? Because ultimately Kadarius Toney made plays. The move worked. That simple. Credit to the Chiefs because it played off. And again, credit to what they did in terms of how they had the Eagles defense off balance throughout. The Eagles defense never looked comfortable on the field today. Whether it's stopping the run, whether it's stopping anything that the Chiefs wanted to do, the Eagles defense had no answers. and none of the guys had answers. Here's also the thing: in the NFL, when you don't get after the quarterback, and that quarterback has all day to examine the defense, to look over the defense, and do if you give a guy like Patrick Mahomes time, he's going to slice you and dice you, and that's what he did. He sliced and diced this Eagles defense. Like this dude made it just looked easy at times. What the Chiefs did on offense and their ability to score just looked easy at times. And I'm thinking to myself throughout, this is too easy. 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 This is too it was just too easy. And when it's that easy, you're like, man, I haven't seen this defense get worked over this way. I didn't see this Eagles team get worked over this way all year long. I didn't do it. And so it's that simple. Frustrating for the Eagles, clearly, because it's hard to get to this spot. And they're now they didn't get the job done. Got Jeff McClain, writes for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Eagles beat writer. He writes this. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles have nothing to be ashamed of. They lost to a great team with an equally great quarterback who had the ball last. Yeah, true. Yeah, he's right. He is right. Jalen Hurts has nothing to be ashamed of. He did his job today. But as a whole, here's the thing. When you what the Eagles had as a football team, right? What they were able to build. Because you remember last year, right? Eagles lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round. Jalen Hurts was garbage in that game. He stunk it up the joint. And defensively they weren't that great either. But every hole they had, they filled. Needed another corner. They brought James Bradbury in. Needed another safety. They brought in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Needed another pass rush. Hassan Reddick, come on in. Needed some linebacker help. Kaiser White, come on in. Right? So they just needed a number one wide receiver, A.J. Brown. Let's go on. So they filled every need that they had. They filled it. Every need that the Eagles had, every deficit, every deficiency that they had was filled. Okay? And all that was filled, taken care of, and that was a credit to Howie Roseman, their GM, their president of football operations. He did all this, and he built a team that was loaded. This was a loaded football team, a complete football team from top to bottom, offensively, defensively, everything. This was a great football team. And this was the best team, talent-wise, in the NFL. But when you go up against a quarterback as great as Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes is great. When you go up against a quarterback with that level of greatness, well, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard because those guys are those greatness are greatness. And greatness does great things. Greatness does great things at great times. And that's what happened here. That's greatness. Greatness. And I mean, you just never know when greatness will strike. You never know. And greatness is Patrick Mahomes. This was a great game for sure. This was a great game. Another great Super Bowl. Past couple Super Bowls have been great, and this was a great one. Two great teams battling it out, fighting. And regular season-wise, both of these teams had 540. They were very equal. They were very equal in terms of looking at everything. But Patrick Mahomes, what a year! Won the regular season MVP, Super Bowl MVP, led the NFL in touchdown passes, led the NFL in touchdown yards. Only 3 players have done that in whole career in one season: Brady, Manning, Warner. Like all those guys, Hall of Famers or will be Hall of Famers. So that's that, right? That's that. Patrick Mahomes at this point is already a Hall of Famer. You get his bust ready in Canton. He's a Hall of Famer. He does nothing else from this point on. He's still a Hall of Famer, right? If he doesn't throw another pass in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes is a Hall of Famer. That simple. This takes care of that. He is a Hall of Famer. And a lot of people were saying, well, maybe Hurts should have won MVP. And Hurts had MVP performance tonight, but at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. And at the end of the day, he made the right plays at the right time. And 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 here's what makes this performance and this Super Bowl win even more impressive for the Chiefs. I thought the Eagles had the better football team. I did. From top to bottom, the Eagles had the better football team. And any way you analyzed this game and looked at this game in all different phases and all different ways, I said to myself, the only way that the Eagles could lose it if they don't play a clean game. And based on what we saw, they darn near played a clean game. But that third phase of the game, which is special teams, let them down with Kadarius Toney's long punt return to set up the touchdown to put the Chiefs up 8, and then that fumble by Jalen Hurts, which was returned. Those two things were huge. Those were huge plays. But again, when he walked off the field, Jalen Hurts was and had the game tied, right? Well, you bet right, Philly to win the first half of the game, but you were right. Something told you Chiefs were going to close it out, and they did close it out. They closed it out in style. They got the job done. And look, the numbers, the stuff is right here. Like, you can look at it for yourself in terms of Patrick Mahomes and what he did this year. I mean, you can look at it yourself. It's right here. ESPN stats and info. This right here. This is what this dude has done this year. This is why he is Super Bowl MVP. This is why he was the league MVP. This is why. Led the league in touchdown passes, led the league in touchdowns, yards, passing yards. I mean, and led his team to the Super Bowl and got this team a Super Bowl win. That's what you call greatness, right? And look at this again. And I said this, I keep saying it's like, yo, Patrick Mahomes, this dude could win 7 Super Bowls, right? This dude could get to 10 Super Bowls. This dude could be Tom Brady. And like, look, this Patrick Mahomes, the first player in NFL history to win multiple championships and multiple league MVPs in the first 6 seasons. Like, there's not many quarterbacks who's doing and has done what Patrick Mahomes has done in the first few seasons of his career. Like, what this dude doing is special. He's a special player. And he did special things tonight. Everything he did was special. And it's that simple. And again, the Eagles kicking themselves. As a fan of the Eagles, I'm kicking myself. Because I felt like the Eagles were the better team. And when you're in that position, when you feel like you're the better team, and on paper it looks like you're the better team and you don't win, that's a tough pill to swallow. And look, it happens in the NFL where the best team doesn't always win. They don't always win in the NFL. It happens. Sometimes it happens, and it happens. Doesn't really happen in basketball much, but it does happen in football. Does happen in baseball. Does happen in hockey, where the best team doesn't always win. And I'm going to feel like, and I'm going to say, in this instance, the best team didn't win, but they won. Like, you can't take anything away from the Chiefs. They won. Fair and square. You talk about James Bradbury's play? Sure. But they won. Talk about all those plays. But they won. That's it. That's simple. Patrick Mahomes, you're a Super Bowl champion. Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, you win your second Super Bowl. Andy Reid is an all-time great coach. And, he keeps doing it. Keeps doing it. He did it in Philly at a high level. And he's doing it in Kansas City at a high level. He's doing it at a high level. And now he can dance in the locker room. He can celebrate. And he can, do some goofy dances and all that. But the Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. It's just that simple, right? And we can talk about the James Bradbury play, right? We could talk about that play. And you can complain and justify, but here it is: Bradbury holding Smith-Schuster, a little jersey tug there, And it was called. It was called. You thought maybe he could get away with it. You thought that he would have a chance, but he didn't. They didn't. They didn't call it, and that's that. Like I mean, they called it, and that's that. It's that. I mean, they called it, but man, man, oh man, oh man. So you look at the past 2 years, it's come down to those type of plays. Logan Wilson did it last year with the Bengals, questionable PI call, and it happened again this year. And that's something you don't want to see officials dictating and deciding football games. And you could argue that's what happened today to a degree. But it was a questionable call, a little ticky tack. Was the right call? Probably. Questionable call? Yes. Yes. Logan Wilson, we'll be talking about that. James Bradbury, we'll be talking about that. Logan Wilson, he's he knows what this feels like. He knows what this feels like all too well. And so now is James Bradbury. So now does James Bradbury. He knows what it feels like, and so does Logan. Wilson actually tweeted something. Let me see. Where's it at? Where's it at? Logan Wilson tweeted it. This little emoji there, heart emoji. Well, a little heart there. Well, actually, it's just a curious emoji, I guess. Because that was obviously a curious call. But he tweeted, and again, we remember Logan Wilson last year. He was in a similar situation where a PI, and then the Rams were able to score, and that was that. That was that, right? And similar situation. James Bradbury, similar situation, and it was questionable. It was definitely a questionable call. And again, look at it right there. I guess, like I said, by the letter of the law, the right call. But in terms of that time and situation, not the right call in terms of time and situation. But what do you do? What do you do? You move forward. That's all you can do if you're the Eagles, because it doesn't change anything. Complain about all you want. The city of Philadelphia will be complaining. They were planning something big on Broad Street, big Broad Street. Like, they had to grease the poles because no people were going to go out and celebrate. But there was none of that tonight. There won't be none of that tonight. There won't be none of that until, hopefully for the Eagles, next February. Because their time, the season, is over. And it ends in a frustrating way for the Eagles. James Bradbury called on a hold against Juju Smith-Schuster. Wonder what Bradbury's going to say today after that situation. You wonder what his reaction is going to be to that penalty, because it was a hold. I guess it was a hold. So actually, Bradbury, here we go. It's courtesy. Let's see. Bradbury, he actually did say something in relation to that. Let's find it. So James Bradbury, here we go. It was holding. I was hoping they would let it slide. Nope. They did not. They did not. So he admitted, he said it. He admitted his fault. He said, quote, it was holding. I tugged on his jersey. I tugged the jersey. I said, let me repeat that. So it was holding. I tugged on the jersey. That's what he said. Okay. So he admits that he was wrong. He admits that he got a holding penalty. Here's something that was interesting as well. Let's just say Bradbury just let Smith Schuster go. And Smith Schuster catches it. He probably runs in for the touchdown. Now, unless he decides to slide down at the one. But more than likely, he's probably going to go in and score. So if he scores at that point, it's about minute 40, minute 50 left. Eagles get the ball back, down 7 with an opportunity to tie the game. So, in terms of that, right? Um, if he would have just let him go, well, probably would have been a better play to just let Smith Schuster go. Don't hold. Just let him go. You got beat on the play. Let Smith Schuster go. Let him do his thing. Let him score a touchdown in that situation. You get the ball back, and then you can try to do whatever you got to do. Your offense has a chance. But again, when your offense leaves the field and they tie it at 35, right? Your defense is supposed to step up and do the job and hold. Your defense is supposed to hold at some point, right? And again, this was similar to Super Bowl 52. Tom Brady was going up and down the field on the Eagles. Tom Brady had no problems, and the Patriots had no problem moving the ball against the Eagles in Super Bowl 52, right? They scored a bunch of points. And Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, had no problems moving up and down the field against the Philadelphia Eagles. 38 points. They had no problems. Little resistance from the Eagles defense. Little to no resistance. And that's troubling. That's troubling when you consider how good this Eagles defense was throughout the course of this season. That's troubling when you consider how good the Eagles defense was in these playoffs. That's troubling when you consider this team had 70 sacks in the regular season and 8 sacks in the playoffs and gotten, knocked out 2 quarterbacks in the same game in Purdy and Josh Johnson. That's troubling. And you can't lay a finger on Patrick Mahomes. You gave Patrick Mahomes clean pockets. You knew he was battling an ankle injury. You couldn't do anything about it. Nothing about it. Right? So the Eagles, no sacks. 0 sacks. 0 sacks. Like if you would have walked into this game and said that the Eagles would have 0 sacks, and you would have said that, well, here's the thing. Eagles were first in the league in sacks with 70. The Chiefs were second with 55. And there was only 1 sack in this game. 1 sack. So 70 sacks by the Eagles. Chiefs had 55, top 2 teams in terms of sacking the quarterback. Total, 125 sacks combined between these 2 teams this season. And the Chiefs actually had 2 sacks, and the Eagles had none. None. So that is telling. That is telling. Both of these quarterbacks had clean pockets tonight. And both of these quarterbacks put up numbers tonight. And both of these quarterbacks had great games tonight. But one quarterback was on the field last. And that quarterback was Patrick Mahomes. And him being on the field last is the reason why the Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl 57 champions. That simple. Did Bradbury hold? He said he did. Just thought he would get away with it. Right? He thought he was going to get away with it. But he didn't get away with it. He didn't get away with it. That's it. That's it. And then that's the season. So, going back to the Eagles. Going back to Jalen Hurts. What a game. 27 for 38, 304 yards, 70 yards on the ground, 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 3 passing, including a 2-point conversion run that tied the game at 35. This guy did it all. Jalen Hurts did everything that you can ever ask from a quarterback. Jalen Hurts did his job tonight. Jalen Hurts walked off the field with the game tied at 35. Jalen Hurts just played an amazing football game, and look, he played an amazing football game. He was that dude today. He was that dude today, and that's simple. Jalen Hurts was that dude. He was that guy. He was the system. He was the system tonight, and he did his job and then some. And you feel for him. You feel for him. because he did his job tonight. He did his job tonight. And everything that you can ask from Jalen Hurts, you got. You got it, and then some. And he just, like I said, when he walked off the field, his team was in the lead. When he walked off the field, his team was good. And that's it. Like he walked off the field, he had what he wanted. The team had what they wanted. They're tied at 35. And then Jalen Hurts did it. So he did everything we wanted him to do. He did fumble, which led to a touchdown. But again, outside of that, he had his team in the lead 24-14 at halftime, had his team in the lead 27-21, had his team in the lead in the fourth, and tied the game when he stepped off the field. So everything you asked him, he did. Well, he didn't. Well, he couldn't play defense. I mean, it's that simple. He couldn't play defense. If he could play defense, well, then maybe we have a different conversation. But he couldn't play defense. And it's unfortunate that he can't play defense because, with the heart that he plays with, he could have found a way to get after the quarterback, right? Even with that bad shoulder. Jalen Hurts could have sacked Patrick Mahomes with the heart that he plays with, right? But he doesn't play defense, plays offense. And wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough. And the Eagles weren't good enough today. They were good enough all season long. They were more than good enough all season long. They were more than good enough in these playoffs. But they weren't good enough today. So we're going to get out of here now. Super Bowl 57 in the books. Jalen Hurts, great game. But Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP. Like, subscribe, support the channel. Later.